Hey everyone, my name's Jordan Wolf and I'm a recovering drug addict, alcoholic, and been through many mental health battles, anxiety, depression. Um, I suppose I started this video to help others that are going through a similar thing. I know for me, when I first went into recovery, I never thought it was possible to come out the other side or stop using. I was addicted to heroin and ice, and drank a lot of alcohol as well. Alcohol was definitely a problem for me if I wasn't using the drugs. Alcohol was used addictively, and um, I never thought it was possible to come out the other side. When I first went into rehab 3 years ago, all the support staff that were telling me it's possible, keep working at it. Um, some of these guys were 9, 10 years clean, and I just found it really hard to believe that they were actually clean. It seemed impossible to get to that stage for me. I was in a pretty bad way when I got to rehab. I'm 94 kilos, very unhealthy, very pale. Um, a lot of my teeth were starting to fall out. Um, just just a sad individual that had nothing, had no aspirations, just nothing more to live for than than drugs. I just was in such a dark place. I suppose the difference for me when I went into rehab, I had a house, I had a car, I had a job. Um, I was somewhat functioning as an addict, but I was using all those material things in life to get through and to to give me some sort of happiness. I couldn't get happiness from anywhere else than material things and my family. But after a while, nothing was working. It was just, even the drugs weren't working. It was just, my life was in turmoil. I tried to um, end it all a couple of times with an overdose, and I couldn't even do that. And thank God it didn't work. I remember waking up and, 5 or 6 hours later, still in my car, and um, it just was bawling my eyes out, just thinking, how am I going to get out of this? This isn't fair. This isn't me. But I actually went into rehab a couple of days later. A good friend organised it all, and that probably saved my life. It was, one of the best decisions I've ever made, to go into rehab. But for me, getting to rehab was one thing, but to admit to even the people in the rehab, uh, my addictions and where they were at, for me, I was in denial a lot. I didn't believe, even then, I didn't believe I was an addict. I used to actually sit there at 10 o'clock in the morning after I just used, and usually having a beer, meant to be at work, and I'd be Googling, what is an addict? What is an alcoholic? So I remember telling that story in rehab once, and someone said to me, well, if you're Googling that, there's a fair chance you are. And anyway, for me it was admitting to myself, but the fear for me was admitting to everyone else what I'd been doing, and that, hiding that from everyone was so important to me. That was basically a massive addiction for me, to make sure no one knew what I was up to. I think because I slowly got worse over the years and slowly changed, but made a really conscious effort to still somewhat have my shit together majority of the time. I think it was hard for the people that were close to me to recognise how bad it was. I was very good at hiding my emotions, and well, I had no emotions anyway, but I was very good at making out everything was all right. That was a really important thing for me. But in the end, that only added to my recovery to make it even harder to get things back on track. But I suppose one of the things with me that I suppose I wanted to share with everyone was, for me, life's always been like that. I've always worried about everyone else, and I've always worried about what everyone else thinks of me. And I had this massive fear of failure ever since I was a kid. And I think learning to not be like that was a massive part of my recovery. It's easy to be one of those people that worry so much about what people think, and I suppose in life there's always someone that's going to judge you, or there's always someone that's going to look down on you, and there's always someone that's not going to like you. And I suppose to manage that for me was drugs and alcohol. When things got tough, I used, and in the end every day was tough, so I was using every day. So I just wanted to start these videos to just let people know that have faith, don't give up, and really want to change and want to live a better life. I suppose a lot of people go out looking for happiness, and all they want is to be happy. And I think no one's ever happy all the time. So, and it's probably important to understand that it's okay to not be happy every now and then. I mean, so it's okay not to be okay. Things happen. Even people that are going through a really good time in their life and got their shit together, and got the job and a car and a family, and everything's going along smoothly, still have days where they're not happy. And I suppose searching for happiness isn't the answer, and wasn't the answer for me. I think searching for and implementing a better life was what worked for me. So I can't stress enough to people out there trying to recover from addiction or mental health that just work on the little things. I'm in the process now of making a workbook for addicts and anyone suffering with mental health, or anyone who wants to change their life. It's an ongoing battle for people to improve their life. And I suppose in the society that we live in, it's a very competitive one. It's, who can have the biggest house, who can have the best car, and how much you earn, and whose car's better, and all these things that, when you really break it all down, they don't really matter. They don't mean you're any happier because you've got a big house, or it doesn't mean you're any happier because you've got a good job. And majority of the time, all these people with good jobs aren't that happy. They don't want to be going to work every day to the office that they work in. It's usually doing something that they're sick of doing, and they're only doing it because they're in so much debt, or they've bought so many things, and they have to keep up the repayments, and keep that life that they've led everyone to believe that they've got. And it just ends up spiraling out of control for some people. And I think when you're an addict, you get stereotyped into this person that is hopeless, and society would be better off without them. And it can be very hard recovering from that. And there's not much support out there. I mean, people say there's heaps of support, but there is a lot of support, but there's not much support that actually works. I think it comes from inside. When you're going through recovery, it's got to be you that makes the decisions. And I I really feel that if people if people really believe that they can change and they start making a few positive changes to their life, it will get better and it will get easier. You just can't give up, and don't give up, because I nearly did, and I'm here today, and I couldn't be more grateful that I am, and I stuck at it, and I kept trying, and I kept trying. Um, I think I've done 6 or 7 stints in rehab, and each time it got easier, and each time I had a different attitude. But the one thing I did every time was listened and did what I needed to do, worked hard, and did all the things that they asked. And eventually it worked. But for me, I started to implement everything I had learnt from different rehabs, and I ended up having to do it on my own because I had so much in my life. Like I've got 3 kids and a wife, beautiful wife, that I was using a lot to balance me, to bring back to some sort of happiness. And that can be very damaging because it gives you a false sense of security. You think everything's okay when you're living at home and you've got your kids and um, you've got your wife, but it's no good for anyone when you're suffering and you're going through addiction, especially, and you're trying to recover. Um, it is hard for your support people to continue to support in the right ways. It can be they a lot of support staff or support people don't realize that they're actually going through just as much as the addict, and um, they've got to look after themselves more so than try to look after the addict. For me, when I was on my own, I only had myself to blame for things. I was the only one that was disappointed if I did the wrong thing. Um, I had to start motivating myself. I had to start getting up and going for a walk and I was the only one that knew I was doing that. I wasn't doing it for anyone else. I wasn't going to meetings because my wife would see me go to a meeting and think that I was going well, which is the way that I lived my whole life. Anything that I did in my life was for someone else. It was to get the approval of my mum, or get the approval of my wife, or get the approval of friends or the people I worked with. Every decision I made I always thought, what will this person think? It was never how do I feel? What do I actually want? What do I want out of life? And over time, it destroys you. And I think a lot of people that go through addiction feel the same. They're very caring people. They don't like disappointing people, and they don't like letting people down. And all they want is someone to be happy with them for who they are. And I think once I was on my own and I started to heal a little bit, and I could actually look at myself in the mirror and not spit on it. I remember when I was going through a really bad time, I couldn't get photos taken of me. I was so far down and in such a dark hole that life just wasn't worth living. It was just too much. And once I got on my own, it took the pressure off having to worry about everyone for a while, and disappointing everyone. And um, yeah, I could start to really heal. And that was the biggest key for me, I think. Starting to get some self-respect back, some self-worth, um, doing things for myself was, I mean, as addicts, we always get told we're selfish and, very self-centered people. And I mean, as far as the addiction goes, it can be. We're very selfish, but I think deep down, we're very unselfish, and I think that's what we do feel and what we do see, which is why it's so disheartening when you hear it from someone else that you're selfish. And once you get back on your own and you start doing things for yourself, and I'm not saying you have to go on your own, but try just practicing, just doing a few things on your own that are good for you, and get back to basics. And I had to strip myself from everything and just live with the bare minimum, just starting to enjoy the little things in life, and life starts to get easier. Anyway, I'm going to be making a few more videos. I really hope you will subscribe, and yeah, I hope you can get a lot out of it. Anyway, thanks for listening. Cheers.